Hello there, this is Big Benedict. We're playing Sniper Elite V2 on Sniper Elite difficulty. This is mission 4 of 10. It is entitled Opernplatz. Excuse me. I've misnumbered the chapters, you guys. And it was based on the assumption that the prologue was its own mission, but it isn't. Look at this pop-in right here. So I just wanted to say that this is mission 4. I think I called the last mission 4, but this is actually the 4th mission. So I can't change anything that's been permanently stated in the audio commentaries, but I can, and I have gone back to the videos on YouTube and changed both the thumbnails representing the videos as well as the titles. So I've changed that. And what we're going to be doing here is going over to the hotel, which reminds me of the hotel in The Last of Us, actually. Quite similar, in fact. I will show you where you get your first checkpoint. It's coming up. And there's quite a lot to talk about. Now, you notice that there is a sound icon pulsating at random times in the upper right. Just as in the last chapter, when the klaxons blared, you could use the sound to muffle your gunshots. So too, in this chapter, can you do the same thing? So this guy right here, let him turn around, and then make sure that you wait until the sound icon comes on, and then this is the checkpoint. Now this took me, God, 7 hours. I'm not lying. I wish I were lying. But how this is gonna work depends on how you want to do it pretty much, and what checkpoint you get. So the way that this particular section works with the guys on ground level is that you want to shoot them when the sound icon's going, but if you don't kill them, then you'll need to reset because they'll sound the alarms. However, I think I may demonstrate it over here on accident. No. If you fire at these guys and it doesn't touch them, they won't hear. So let's see if this happens. Let's just see if this happens over here. No, I was on point. But in that situation, since I hit him and he didn't die, I had to do a killing shot on the next shot. If I had missed him, say for instance I was going to hit him for the first time and I missed him, I would have to just wait for him to get another opportunity to shoot him. But the alarms wouldn't have sounded just because it went by him, as long as the sound icon is on the screen. Now, sometimes you're going to get this situation where you'll have enemy snipers up here, but more than likely, after you kill those 3 guys that we just killed, you're going to have to leave this hotel, go into the plaza, and then spawn a guy that I'm going to show you about in a second. But there's just thinking about how to explain all of this is really off-putting, because there are so many variables here about like what can happen. And basically, if you go through it a number of times, you'll see what happens. What's going to eventually happen is you'll get that yellow diamond indicating that you can go to the next section and get your save point. Until then, though, if you die at any point, you will start way far back. I mean, it's pretty brutal, man. And the thing is, this is not hard. It's just extremely stressful, and it requires extreme precision. So what usually was happening for me was I was not getting these guys spawned this early in the fight. What happened was I would have to leave the hotel and then pass a tripwire point down in the plaza to actually cause these snipers to appear. But on this particular successful run, these snipers came out early. So what's going to happen, you guys, is there is no editing. So it's going to end up being like a 20-minute session of just very tentative gameplay, missing many times, because I just want you guys, as you watch this, to realize how challenging this game is and how it's possible, like when you're playing, to get one of these guys killed on the first try. And it's just as easy to take like 10 or 15 shots to try to kill him. And again, you're only going to get that particular luxury where you get so many shots if you're shooting when that sound icon is at the top right. Now, the really beautiful thing about the perched enemies or snipers is that if you hit them and you don't kill them, they're so isolated from the other enemies that they can't sound the alarms. So as long as you shoot when the sound icon is blaring, you're gonna be okay, provided that you don't cross the proverbial line. So just feel free to hit them as many times as you need to kill them, but ideally try to get those headshots to take care of them instantaneously. So we're gonna come up here and walk up to this, and you'll see a head popping up right up here in a second. You see this guy's ugly shitty head right there? Turn around, you will get hit. You always get hit, and stay behind cover. What's gonna happen now is that going out there has spawned some enemies. I should say that there are 2 patrols on the opposite side of the plaza, and if you kill all the snipers, you're gonna have to deal with those guys eventually. And you might be wondering what repercussions await you if you do have the alarms sounded. And the thing is, you'll just have enemies rushing from the courthouse and running towards you. And is it hard? No, it isn't hard. Like I said, it's just stressful, and it involves some micromanaging and setting up some traps. So God, it's overwhelming to try to talk like this, but since I've done no editing, it's not going to be too hard, I don't think. So the gun that I've selected is the gun that starts with a K and that has the longest range, zoom range. And I've picked many tripwires. So on this section, make sure that you very sparingly use the assault rifle, because you'll need it in the next section, following the protect the scientist section. So you might be wondering where the snipers are. That's a good question, because they vary quite randomly. Sometimes you'll get a sniper. Well, I'll show you where the sniper is eventually. It's just really hard to narrate this, guys, but I could tell you the basics and get you through it. The basics are, we're going to leave now and plant some traps, because what I think I'm going to do is try to take out the guys on the opposite side of the pavilion. See, what I was endeavoring to do, what I was endeavoring to do, like the entire time, like this took 7 hours. I was trying not to be perfect. God, fuck, man, it's like 3 in the morning. I wasn't trying to perfect anything, you guys. The thing is, I was just trying not to raise any alarms so that I could get ushered into the next area without having enemies running to me and flanking me. Even though it's not flanking me, they're coming behind me. So I could show you where the next guy is, actually. If he chooses to stick up his dirty head, we'll be able to see it. Yeah, that's what I have. I have the Carabiner 98K. So there's usually, sometimes there's an enemy slithering on one of the balconies across the way. There's usually this guy behind the horse, and the horse gets in the way. And let me just try to paraphrase what exactly is going on here, because it's extremely convoluted. This is not a stealth section. However, you are rewarded for doing stealth, as always. So, like, what just what is this section, you might be wondering, and I'm still wondering what it is. It's just, like, on a fundamental level, so that we don't oversimplify anything or exaggerate it. It's just, you beat it. That's all. You beat it. You don't have to be stealthy. There's no, like, failure state for not being stealthy. Then again, what is the easiest road here? I would say the easiest road is to take care of as many snipers as you possibly can. Fortify the hotel by planting tripwire points. And this is what I meant by, you know, sometimes it just takes 20 shots to take these guys down. Even though it doesn't give you an indication, like southwest, northwest, what you want to do is you want to note which way the reticle is drifting. So if you see that it's drifting like up and to the right, you're going to have to compensate by going down and to the left, and vice versa. So, like, if you shoot and you miss and you see that it's too far down, you're going to have to compensate by going up. It's just those types of factors. This is a hard game, but I really like the challenge, and I appreciate the fact that it doesn't patronize to the player. So eventually we will get this guy, and let's see what the final position was on this particular son of a bitch. Let's just look how it's drifting here. See, when it's drifting, it's telling you which way the wind is blowing. So when you see whither it's blowing, you'll be able to compensate for that. So, up and to the right, that's the key. Why? Because the wind was blowing down and to the left. So we had to compensate. Now, do you see where I'm pointing now? Sometimes there will be a guy over there, standing over there. Sometimes there's an enemy slithering right in there, and the enemies over here, there's 2 patrols right over there, and I'm very skeptical about shooting those guys, because if I shoot them, they patrol in, like, they face each other when they patrol, like their paths cross. So if you kill one, it's almost guaranteed that, I mean, if you kill one, the other guy's going to see it. So I kind of just wait on that as much as possible, to the point where, you know, I get to about this amount of comfortability, and then I start sealing up the place using some trip mines. But do not waste more than 2 of these, I would say. So there's the first one, and the second one I'm going to place somewhere else. I cannot remember at the current time, but I think what I'm going to do is prepare myself for the influx of enemies, because I know I'm going to make some sounds, because at this point there are no more snipers. Yeah, I'm taking pop shots at these guys. There's no more snipers that I know of at this time. I did later learn that it was a tripwire issue where I had to go down the plaza a little bit to spawn like one of the last snipers. But what you're ultimately looking for and listening for is you're listening for the cessation of the music. So when the music stops, and here's some enemies coming out right here. There really aren't that many, and as long as you have these trip mines placed, you don't have to worry about enemies coming to do a little meet and greet shit dance with you. So the nice thing though about it is that if it says tripwire kill, you know that an enemy has still no testicle shot. Fucking ballless bitch right there. I'm trying to keep the profanity to a minimum, you guys. I'm sorry about that. I'm a little jaded about the last video. It didn't go over too well. I posted it 35 hours ago by my current clock, and nobody commented. So I just disabled comments, since I figured that 35 fucking hours nobody comments. So I thought to myself, well, nobody wants to comment, so I will disable the comments. I mean, nobody's commenting, so there's no reason to have the comments on that video. And I don't mean to be bitter about it anyway, but trip mine kill, we have one. So what I'm gonna do is just stay up here and keep this position held, but not use the assault rifle, because trust me, you'll need it later. So what we're gonna be doing is just waiting for enemies to rush into this hotel and use the sniper rifle to take care of them. Although at close quarters, the sniper rifle can be very difficult to actually use, just because of the fact that, well, you'll see perfectly well what happens. It's just very hard to control the aim of it. So anyway, we just don't want to get overrun with enemies, and admittedly there aren't that many foes here, but it looks like I've ran out of ammunition, and I selected the well rod, thought twice about it, and just said to myself, I'll use the sniper rifle. It's good for the power, but it's bad for, like, you'll see like in a second what happens over here. I almost got killed. So there's a kill. Right there, there's a kill. Right there, like that. It's just, well, that's not even as bad as it can be. This is as bad as it can be right here. Right over here. I'll show you. Maybe not. Maybe that was the worst of it. But I could have made that a little bit easier for myself by placing landmines and trip mines. However, I knew, having done this chapter before, okay, look, we have that yellow diamond, but watch what happens. Reconnoitering the environment is going to be extremely helpful, particularly if you're low on ammunition. You need to go to every body and just pick and choose what you want. Like I would select the MP40 because it has the most the most bullets, and they aren't particularly scarce the way the other bullets are. So at this point, do not turn complacent, because if you do, you might find yourself getting shot, as I almost did right there. Although I knew that something was probably afoot over here. I do not trust this section. So, do you see this guy right here? He will sometimes appear like at the very first phase of this long fight. So it's just completely random who appears where as far as the snipers. And I think he turned tail and ran, the fucking coward. So we need to go to approximately where his level is and take him down. So you might be kind of questioning that, thinking to yourself, well, Vic, they had the yellow diamond there. I should have been able to run free to the checkpoint, and that is true. However, I don't think that the music had stopped. So at this point, the music did stop, and in the editing process, I went all over this whole map and got all the weapons that I wanted. And well, it wasn't really the weapons that I wanted, it was just ammunition, because I know I'm going to need that after we protect the scientist, whom we'll be meeting up with presently. Okay guys, we're going to be trudging through the last of this chapter. When you go into this location, you will get a checkpoint, and you are going to be faced with 2 assailants here. So we don't really have too much left of this chapter. In fact, there's probably about 10 minutes left of runtime here. Suffice to say, you can put down tripwires and landmines and things like that, and they will carry over through all of the cutscenes and everything that transpires up here. So I didn't know that at the time, but I was experimenting, and I can confirm that that actually is something that will help you out later when you are rushed for time a little bit more than you are now. So our goal now is to go up to the 2nd floor of this library, meet up with the scientist, and I think at that point we will be rescuing him or trying to do an escort mission. No, it's the execution. This execution is actually really difficult to get this, and there isn't any particular order. I don't think that gets favored. You might think that shooting the guy with the gun is the best thing to do, and it worked out on that occasion for me. But there was a couple of times that I did this that I shot the other guys and it worked out better. And it's just a lot of fast shooting is all it really is. And then once you get the blue diamond icon over him, you will have to protect him a little bit, but he has a lot of HP. I've never had him get killed in any of these sequences, so it's pretty nice. And I do not know where the checkpoint is over here. I believe you have to get a little bit further. So I'm currently on the next chapter. If you're well, I was gonna say if you're worried, but there really isn't anything to be worried about, except that I'm having a really hard time figuring out the stealth puzzle in the next chapter. I'm getting to the point where I'm just thinking to myself, maybe stealth is just not possible. I mean, up until a point, I think it is, but it is really aggravating me. So this is handled pretty well, I must say. You know, you do this. I remember doing something similar to this on Spec Ops: The Line. There may be something in Gears of War like this, but I actually don't think so. But when I say that it's handled well, it's just, it isn't hard, and that's the thing I've always stressed on this part, since this isn't the game, in as much as you don't play the entire game doing this. If you did, then it would be understandable that it would be hard, but it's something out of the ordinary in the gamescape. So I think while I have a few minutes to talk, because the next chapter I'll have to be going into the strategies that I'm doing, but I wanted to define this difficulty because I looked on the manual and it has a little bit more information. There are several factors involved with Sniper Elite difficulty. It is called the Ultimate Challenge, and according to the manual, the enemies, it goes on to say, the enemies hunt you down relentlessly and with brutal precision. Wind will also affect your shots, and your heart rate and stance will have a greater bearing on the steadiness of your rifle. All tactical assistance features are disabled, meaning the marking of the targets, the aim assistance reticle is taken off, as well as marking targets. But this guy, this scientist here, he can take a beating, and it's really nice. I mean, it works well. No frustrating factors. But what I meant earlier about saving your trip mines is that they'll come in handy on the next part. And I just wanted to go over the reticle itself, I mean the heads-up display, because I honestly didn't know what all the icons meant. You see in the very top where there's a gauge there? If it will come up again. Hopefully it will, but that looks like the last guy. You'll see it in a minute. Okay, so we've got some more enemies, but do you see the top gauge? That is the wind. According to the manual, the wind will change depending on the direction and the strength of the wind at any time. This only appears on Sniper Elite difficulty, so that's kind of strange. I thought that was strange. So there's also something called the aim assistance reticule. If you empty it says if you empty your lungs while your heart rate is sufficiently low, this reticle will appear to show you where the bullet will land after taking external forces into account. This will not be displayed on Sniper Elite difficulty. So that's another thing that stands against you on this mode. And what else? One of the other HUD icons is the stance. So you should know what that means. It'll just show if you're crouched, prostrate, prone, you know, or standing up. And then there's the heart rate and then the bullets. But on this part here, I should say that you're going to get enemies rushing into this building. So the more of these that you put down, the better time you'll have. I mean, the easier time you'll have, I should say. But the manual says that you need to pay attention to your heart rate. At higher heart rate levels, your scope will be less steady and and you will observe greater recoil after each shot. As your heart rate approaches its base level, you will be able to steady the scope for longer periods of time. And what I've noticed, you'll also be able to use the steady shot of exhaling the wind out of your lungs. And if you do see like you're out of breath and the lungs are in that red color, I think you just need to stop moving for a second and he'll calm down a little bit. I think that's how it's handled. But as that manual implies, on this difficulty mode, your stance has more bearing than on the other modes, meaning that unless you crouch or go prostrate, you're going to have a hard time shooting. So it's in your best interests to crouch and go prone like this. This is the best position because you're the most vulnerable, and the game knows that, and it will reward you for being like that. So the really nice thing about this is that when enemies come into the building, it will say, if they get killed, provided, it'll say that trip mine kill or something like that. So you instantly know when you're getting those kills. You don't even have to listen for it. You can you'll see it on the bottom of the screen. So when you're firing in this game, you do want to look at that wind meter to see which way the wind is blowing. So if it's blowing to the right, you need to aim to the left and vice versa. That's my understanding of it. So this is basically just fortify a position, and if you want to, you can just stay up here as much as you want. And that's why I said the more trip mines and landmines you have, the better your time will be. At about halfway through this battle, another convoy will come up, drop off some more cargo for you to kill. And I think I almost died on the last guy, just because I had ran out of almost all of my bullets. But it was still, there we go, landmine kill. So we know somebody tried to come in and they got killed. So if all you want to do is just stay right up here, it might be a pretty good idea, actually, if you don't even want to involve yourself with sniping enemies. But as you can see, sometimes they slip past, and you do not get very much ammo on this game, except for the sniper rifle. You'll never run out of sniper rifle ammo. That's just how it works. So I personally don't mind all the restrictions on this difficulty mode, because it is a hard difficulty, so you should be given some penalties. But you see the wind right now? There's no wind blowing, except a very, very faint breeze, because otherwise it would be dead center. There we go. Moving headshot for some more points. And we're just going to finish off anybody who rushes in here. And then, boy, the next chapter is really hard. I mean, just figuring it out is tough. And I hate when stealth is just, when, you know, you try to do stealth and it's just not working. So I think this is the last guy. You guys, a very lethal enemy. Take care.